Good morning, everyone, and thank you for joining this month's Coffee with Coopsys webinar. I am Scott Spatz, President of Cooperative Systems, and today we're going to be talking about controlling your IT and whether you should outsource your IT, hire internally, or have a hybrid of both. Today's agenda, we're going to talk a little bit about what does it mean to outsource your IT and what are the components of that. What's the difference in hiring internally, and if you're going to run your own IT department? What a hybrid or co-managed, sometimes referred to as what that model is, and then what's the best choice for your dealership? So who are we and why listen to us? This is a little redundant for those of you who've been joining our monthly webinars, but Cooperative Systems, I'm Scott Spatz, the President of Cooperative Systems, and we are an outsourced managed IT services company. We're based in Connecticut and Massachusetts, and we serve automotive retailers amongst other businesses around the New England region. We started our business in 1993, so been around for quite a few years, and we've worked with auto dealerships for all those years, achieving their goals with best technology platforms. And me personally, just grew up around the automotive industry and kind of passionate about the automotive retail world and latest and greatest and what systems can best benefit automotive retailers everywhere. All right, so what does it mean to outsource your IT? Basically, the concept here is that you're hiring a company to manage your IT, also known as a managed IT services provider. And that company handles all of your day-to-day tech support, your hardware needs and software needs, and manages all that for you. Outsourced IT firms typically bill your business on a flat monthly fee and cover many items per month. That's typical. That's not in all cases. So we'll get into what things to look for and why once we get into the details here. So further, what does it mean to outsource your IT? So basically what you have is an entire team of qualified technical staff working for you. There's people of varying technical expertise levels from basic user support and desktop, laptop support up to server and network support and infrastructure gear and software support. So that you basically have an access to a full team of individuals that are of varying skill sets that are working for you and your business. Managed IT services firms typically have established processes and workflows for all levels of the support they're providing. Some of the things like I just mentioned, so help desk, engineering, automation, maintenance tasks, and then some very important skill sets and tasks related to security and backup, disaster recovery, things like that. These companies have tool sets, monitoring, maintenance systems that are implemented that an IT department typically wouldn't have access to. So one of the values of outsourcing your IT is that these providers will have software systems and management systems, monitoring systems that they've used and developed for many, many years and use across many different client environments. So they're able to do a lot with these systems and have invested in these systems and the development of these systems to do more proactively and to do more behind the scenes so that problems don't happen. And so that if problems do happen, they have best of breed tool sets to be able to fix them as quickly as possible. A managed IT service firm typically provides 85 to 90% of their services remotely, again, because they have a lot of these tool sets to do a lot remotely. It doesn't require someone coming physically to the person's computer or the company's network. And they're able to also use these management systems to push out scripts and routines that, again, typically would need to be done on site or even just limiting the amount of remote access they need into your computer sometimes because they can do things behind the scenes. And when you outsource your IT, you're not dealing with employment issues for your IT staff. Things like training, development, turnover, paid time off. Your outsourced managed IT services firm is always available to you 24/7. So you're not dealing with someone or a small group of people that, again, you have employment issues to deal with throughout the course of managing them as human resource from a human resource perspective. Some additional items here. Additional technical resources are always available to you for projects, upgrades, migrations, business expansion. So a lot of times when you have an internal IT staff, they're only limited to the number of hours that they're working, right? So there's always going to be, in any business, times when you need to do upgrades, migrations, other projects, things like that. So an outsourced model gives you the benefit of having additional resources available to you, which means quicker deployment, quicker project completion timeframes, things like that. Typically, you have predictable and budgeted expenditures. Managed IT services companies are usually pretty good at working with you to develop an annual budget and stick to that budget and work within that budget and be realistic about that budget as well. So things aren't popping up throughout the course of any given year that cause issues with being able to afford it within your and stay within your budget constraints. And then from a predictable perspective too, it's typically a regular monthly expenditure. And if there's upgrades and projects coming up, you typically know about them well in advance. All right, so what's the difference in hiring internally when you have your own internal IT staff? Hiring internally means someone manages your technology as their 9-to-5 job. And the benefit there is that your IT person or staff are 100% dedicated to you and your company. So as I was just explaining about an outsource model, yes, of course, you're sharing the team of individuals that I mentioned amongst many different clients and many different businesses. So one of the benefits of having an internal IT team is that person or people are 100% dedicated to you and your company. Those individuals usually report to your head of operations or head of finance. And depending on the size of your organization, your IT department could be one person or could be many people. And typically the size of the organization is what dictates that. Sometimes the complexity of your organization will dictate that as well. If you have some software development needs or custom programming needs, you might have someone that's got a software development background and then another person that's doing the hardware and infrastructure support. So that talks to complexity of the IT environment within a business, but usually the size of the organization is what dictates the size of the IT department. Internal IT staff are part of your culture, your operation, and how your business functions. So they are you, and they are involved in every aspect of your business and know the ins and outs of your operation. So there's benefit to that. And they typically provide all their services and functions to your business in person as opposed to remotely. So there's pros and cons to that. Some people prefer and are more comfortable with someone providing the service to them in person, but over the past many years, the ability to provide the remote services that managed IT services firms do remotely has just become more and more efficient and more time effective for them and for you. And they're responsible for your IT. They own all aspects of it and should be responsible for your overall IT strategy and execution as well. So that's an important part, is that if you do run your own internal IT department, really need to hold them accountable and make sure that they are providing a strategic plan each year along with a budget in place. And that strategic plan and that budget are aligned with the owners and executives budget and strategic plan as well, so that there's alignment there and reality in terms of seeing those goals through. Some additional items here. There's always the hit by a bus or keys to the castle concern. So if that person or those couple people in your IT department were to leave your organization, what are they taking with them? Or again, the hit by the bus factor, if some drastic thing were to happen to them, they got sick, they weren't able to work for you any longer, what's your plan? And how does that knowledge that they hold of your business, how is that transferred to someone else or another resource if and when something like that were to happen? Plans and procedures need to be in place to continue IT support when internal staff are on vacation, out sick, unexpectedly leave. So along the lines of the previous bullet, but not as serious, but you need to have plans in place for when they're taking PTO time, when they're out sick, when if something comes up, there's an emergency, they have to leave. Your business still needs your IT support. So that's critical. IT is critical to almost every business these days. So what's your plan when and if that person or people aren't available to you? And typically unpredicted expenses come up, and many times they're not budgeted for. So like I said, I stress the importance of holding your IT department accountable for having that strategic plan and having that budget in place. All right, now we'll get into what is a hybrid or co-managed model. And a hybrid is when your outsourced IT firm works also with an internal, either IT manager, director, typically it's at that manager or director level. The two collaborate together to incorporate solutions on a larger scale where your internal resource may not have the time or expertise for that. So typically, again, you have an internal IT manager, director of IT, CIO, CTO, some sort of title like that. That's a director level. And then that person hires and manages an outsourced IT firm to provide some or maybe all of the day-to-day technical services that your business needs. So that director level person, again, also size of your organization is dependent upon this, will determine what components do they want to outsource based on expertise level, based on amount of resources needed. So you can outsource day-to-day stuff, you can outsource more back-end infrastructure stuff, or you could outsource it all. So that's, again, typically what the director level person would be responsible for and coordinating. In a hybrid model, IT aspects like monitoring and cybersecurity can be deployed easier than relying on your own internal IT. So again, that talks to the tool sets and the systems and platforms that managed IT services firms have that they can leverage and do those components much more efficiently and effectively for your business. The IT manager, director, or whoever the title is, usually sets the direction and strategy for the outsourced IT firm to implement. So again, the typical model is that you have someone like that is then setting that strategy for outsourcing kind of the day-to-day stuff for an outsourced IT services firm. So now that we've talked about the three different models, what's the best model for your dealership? So our recommendation is always to outsource or to have a hybrid co-managed approach. We're obviously partial to that because that's who we are, that's what we do. But the reality is, and what we talk about with clients of ours is that you're good at selling and servicing vehicles. We're good at IT. So it's not feasible for you to be as good at IT and managing IT as we are, just like we aren't able to sell and service vehicles as good as you are. So the skill set and the processes, the procedures, the efficiencies that an outsourced managed IT services firm has in place across all of their clients only benefits your business and allows you to sell and service more vehicles and takes that worry off of your plate of all the things we just talked about that are risks and are concerned about managing your own internal IT department. And also with today's ever-changing technology landscape and coupled with everyday cybersecurity threats, you're hearing more and more and more and more about this in the news every day. That there's no way for one or a couple IT individuals to keep up. There just isn't. So outsourcing some or all of your IT services is so crucial to the success, protection, risk reduction, and bottom line profitability for your organization. To properly support and protect your business operation, your staff, you need a structured and rigid approach to IT, both for day-to-day operation as well as strategic planning. So again, an outsourced IT services firm has these processes in place and knows what works and what doesn't work. They do this day in and day out. They have systems and documentation platforms that their technicians and engineers use day in and day out. So they're in a mindset of being able to work within that structure and that rigid approach. Outsourcing in general has benefited many businesses post-pandemic as well, certainly for the remote workforce component, as well as for the cybersecurity threats that have become even more prevalent in the post-COVID era as compared to before. And then also outsourcing typically costs less than running your own internal IT department when you factor in the all-in costs, the things that you sometimes don't necessarily think about that are aren't top of mind, like obviously all your employment costs, your salary, your overhead, your HR associated costs associated with employment. Then you have your training and development of those individuals when you're staffing your own IT department. There's also software and services and licenses that you purchase for your IT department to use. And then typically you do need external expertise over the course of time that you're going to have to hire out. So your all-in cost, when you look at all those things as compared to what a fixed price model would be from a managed IT services firm, you're typically able to save some money there. And then outsourcing allows you to focus on what you do best, as I mentioned already, selling and servicing vehicles. Let a qualified managed IT service provider focus on IT strategies to reduce your risk and increase profitability. So be ready to revise any system, scrap any method, abandon any theory if the success of the job requires it. A quote from our friend Henry Ford here. And ask yourself, basically, does my dealership have control of our IT and our technology processes? And our company has the best IT process for automotive retailers. So certainly check out our website on the screen here, coopsys.com, IT for automotive dealerships, if you'd like to learn more. And feel free to reach out to us if you'd like to discuss a model like this further for your dealership. We're happy to talk to you at any time. Thanks for joining us today on this monthly webinar, Coffee with Coopsys. We thank the Massachusetts Auto Dealer Association for allowing us to provide this content to you on a monthly basis, and we'll look forward to talking with you next month. If you guys have any questions on the content today, please feel free to submit any questions into the Q&A panel. And it looks like we have a question here that came up. The question is, what setup do you see most prevalently amongst your dealer clients? Does dealer group size matter? The answer to that is that we kind of see a little bit of both. We see, obviously, our automotive retailer clients that outsource to us, they're typically in a fully outsourced managed IT services model. But then we've worked with automotive retailers that also have their own internal IT department, and we're helping them supplementing their skills and expertise. So that would tie into the co-managed model. Where we've had the discussions with automotive retailers that we're able to provide a good solution, or we're able to convince them that an outsourced model is better, is that they've historically struggled with their internal IT department in terms of just being able to keep up. Unpredicted things come up, whether it's initiatives or expenses, and they are concerned about the overall security posture of their dealership and the what ifs, and what if I get hit with ransomware? How am I protecting myself? Who do I trust? And what happens if we do get some sort of security outbreak like that? What do we do? So that's where we've helped them. We've made some changes to the ways that they do things. And then, in some cases, we've transitioned them from an in-house IT department model to an outsourced model. And again, the benefit for them, namely, amongst many other things, but namely the benefit to them is that now the dealer principal, the management team of the dealership can focus on selling and servicing vehicles. Stop worrying about IT, stop worrying about what your risks are. Know that you have a trusted advisor and company behind you that's able to manage all this for you on a daily basis and take that off your plate and reduce your risk. Thank you for your question there. And if there's any other questions, certainly feel free to submit them. I'll hang on the line for just another minute here. If not, again, we'll see you next month for our next Coffee with Coopsys webinar. Thanks, everyone.